everyone, it's Shane Conto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland Retrospective here on the SPDM Crew podcasting network. And this is my weekly show where my guest and I each pick a film related in some shape or form. And hopefully by the end of this episode, you have two films to go check out. And joining me for this week, like every month, is my buddy Luke. Luke, thank you so much for coming on.
Anytime, and yeah, still sick, so let's do this. It'll be fun.
Woo. Yes, we are still sick boys, hanging in there, doing our best. And we have a double dose of some Danny Boyle films in honor of 28 years later. We have 1994's Shallow Grave and 1997's A Life Less Ordinary. And let's get started with Shallow Grave. Three friends discover their new flatmate dead, but loaded with cash.
Hmm.
And we're starring here Carrie Fox, Christopher Eccleston, and Ewan McGregor. And there's a few other familiar faces like Gary Lewis and Peter Mullen who popped
Hmm.
up here in some smaller roles. But Luke, what were your general thoughts on Shallow Grave?
I loved it. I think it's a very straightforward. It's
Mm-hmm.
a very dark. It's very funny at times. A story about a bunch of friends, one flat, or as Americans would say, apartment, shitload of money,
Yes, for you,
and
for us Americans listening to this, a flat is an apartment.
yes, I'm doing the real life translation, so your AI doesn't have to.
There you go.
And and shit ton of money and then the paranoia that comes with it and if you happen to, I don't know, kill a person or three and then dismember them, it might stick with you, and and the repercussions of that, funny. Yeah. What did you think?
I really love this movie a lot. And I think it's interesting because a lot of filmmakers got a lot of their footing early in their careers on films like this.
Mm-hmm.
You see the Coen brothers with something like Blood Simple,
Mm-hmm.
and you have something like this with Danny Boyle, which this is just shy of 90 minutes. It's a nice, lean thriller,
Yep.
and it really rides on the coats of three young performers all doing amazing work. And it is sharp, it is well shot. The first off, the colors of
Mm-hmm.
this flat are so rich and bold and just hops off the screen. It was very funny. I was watching this with a friend, two friends of mine. I was visiting them last weekend, and like, there's a couple of moments where they got so Scottish in this, like talking and everything. I'm just like, see,
Yep.
these are like the few moments where I'm just like, I maybe could have used some closed captioning there for a minute, just to fully understand exactly what they were saying. But like, I love the dynamic between these three friends. And yes, this is a relatively simple, straightforward
Mm-hmm.
kind of setup. It's simple. They have a new flatmate. The whole beginning parts of this movie is them trying to interview flatmates. Um, like many great sitcoms of Friends, like Friends or How I Met Your Mother, they're not great people.
And they are a
And
bunch of dicks. Yes,
yeah,
those three are a bunch of dicks.
bunch of dicks. And they finally find a flatmate that basically just Carrie Fox's character, like, oh yeah, come on in. And
Mm-hmm.
then it's just like, dude winds up dead. And then they find money.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't kill this guy or anything like that, but the ripple effects, the ramifications that come out of this, it complicates their lives. And then it's one of those kinds of films that digs down to like the dark recesses of like humanity of like
Mm-hmm.
what would we do in this kind of situation,
Yep.
and how far and how dark will we go to make money, keep this money, and will we stab our friends in the back? And there's violent and shocking moments all the way up to the climax of this movie where this gets pretty brutal,
Mm-hmm.
especially for some of them, and it has some fun little twists
Mm-hmm.
that is like tacked on, or instead of tacking something, and you could always just like stab them with a kitchen knife and slam them into the floor.
You
That'll
sure
keep you
can.
pinned down.
Yep, you sure can. No, I agree with everything you said. Like this movie is what I really liked about it is so first of all, Ewan McGregor and his would you consider that a mullet? Like this hair.
Yes.
Like
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like another character of its own, that hair. It's I was
Mm-hmm.
like, holy shit, that's a baby Ewan McGregor. Especially we've seen him grow up even through now, right?
Yeah.
And you can tell why he and Danny Boyle became such massive stars. Like like obviously Danny Boyle,
Mm-hmm.
director, writer, and him, an actor. I he was electric from the first moment, even though he's like he arguably is the biggest dick of them all, right?
Yes.
Like even to the guy, the what's his name, Cameron? Like like when they spot him again at that function, it's like, hey, Cameron, come here. What? Oh no, no, not nothing. I just thought you might want to do something, or I don't know. It's fine. And they're such a dicks.
Yep.
But like, but they have the charisma, right? Like you can tell they have the charisma. Like he's a newspaper, journalist. She's a doctor. I kind of missed what he with Christopher Eccleston is doing, but like he's also like an important person. And then you know, we need to get rid of the body. How are we gonna go about it? Who's gonna do it? Who's gonna chop
Mm-hmm.
off the feet and the hands and the teeth because we don't want their body to be, identifiable if they were to dig it up. And the dark spiral, Christopher's character, you know, f- dives into, and then he moves into that attic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, damn. And just
Just
there,
like
like,
creepishly looking down through all the holes.
and then he drills the holes, and so he can just spy on his flatmates. And I'm like, wow, like it. You can tell this is a first feature for Danny Boyle because
Mm-hmm.
it is simple, right? You shoot what
Yeah.
you know, and you basically shoot whatever it's at your disposal. So it's like that flat is actually like pretty much fourth character because
Yeah.
like 90% of the movie we spend there, and it almost feels like it has a soul of its own because it's like you spend so much time there, you feel like weirdly, oh yeah, I could kind of live there, but in the same way, you don't want to live there. You don't want to live with those people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so I find, and it's to me it's always fascinating these like we character studies, like where it's like, oh, we just follow these three characters. They are not necessarily great people, but they are worth following because they are not great people and they are still intriguing.
Well, and they're human.
Yes.
So because it's like this is one of those kind of dark stories where it's just like, what would you and your friends do? Like, just imagine if Luke, Adam, and I had a flat together, and
Mhm.
our fourth new flatmate dies. Who would we each devolve into? Like, who's going to be climbing up into the attic and creeping on people through the holes in the ceiling and stuff like that? Which is so interesting. Like, Chris Eccleston is such an interesting case because now I'm realizing so much that he's usually an antagonistic figure in so many of the films that he's in. Like, obviously a lot of people are going to know him as Doctor Who. And which honestly I think the first time I ever saw him was in GI Joe Rise of Cobra,
Of course, as one should.
and also as Malakath, the
Mm.
dark elf from Thor to Dark World, because everybody remembers that character's name.
The best NCU
um
movie.
which also Chris Eccleston is, it's interesting because like he has the deeper voice. He is an intimidating figure next to both of these other people, which we had to look it up. My friend was just like, how big is his feet? At one point, I'm like, well, I'm sure not as big as mine. I wear a 15. I looked up, he wears a 16.
Wow.
And I'm just like, holy crap, Chris Eccleston. Because like he has the ability to be intimidating. Like
Yes.
he is, one of the bad person humans we shouldn't trust in 28 days later. The military people. And what we see of his character David and his spiral through this, and it's interesting trying to figure out who we're rooting for. Who do we want to get this money?
Mhm.
And it's just like the push and pull between these three characters is so intriguing and engaging. And that's what I feel like Danny Boyle's able to accomplish the most is intriguing us and making us feel invested in
Mhm.
these characters despite the fact that they're not great people. And
Mhm.
also, this is really well shot and well put together.
Yes.
And there's a lot of like even just like looking at Eccleston like walking through the attic through all those like beams of light coming up and stuff like
Mhm.
that and like hearing through and looking down upon his flatmates and everything. There's just a lot of inspired shots and filmmaking here, which that's one thing is Danny Boyle's a very bold filmmaker
Mhm.
and his
No,
approach to things. So,
I was hoping you will bring it up because that was my next point as well. Like even the opening sequence was like, when there's a, narration, it's like this could be any city, and we just follow like a camera like mounted on a car, and it's just driving through the streets of Edinburgh, where I've been, and so it's like, oh, I feel like I recognize this. It's
mm,
so wild to me, and that feels like a Danny Boyle movie. Excuse me, couldn't mute my mic there. It feels like a Danny Boyle movie, and this is his feature debut. Like, so you can tell, like, Danny Boyle has always had his. He has his style without actually having style. Like, best ways I can describe it, his movies, no matter what they are, they always have this, like, weird sense of energy.
yes.
Like, where that camera feels. Not throughout the entire movie, because that would be, I think that would be unbearable. But like there are sequences in every single one of his movies where the camera feels very energetic and
Mm,
very almost like left to its own devices. Almost like, hey, if this camera became its own thing and had its own free will and could go anywhere, what would it want to see? And I always find that intriguing, whether it's this movie, whether it's like Slumdog Millionaire, whether it's Life as Ordinary, we're gonna talk about soon.
mm,
Like, I'm not surprised they gotten like he's gotten so big, and Ewan McGregor. I'm kind of
mhm.
surprised Carrie Fox did not have a larger career to be
I
like
was thinking the same
acting.
thing.
Like she's
Yeah,
still acting, don't get me wrong. She's got like 40, 50 credits to her name to this day, and she's still acting, but mostly in the UK from what I could see. So,
he
yeah.
is the only one of the three that didn't become an international star. And to the point where like Gary Lewis and Peter Mullen and Tony Curran, who even pops up as a travel agent, they have all gone on to have like much more
Hmm.
significant big international careers. Like Peter Mullen, I think the most with his work in like Westworld and Rings of Power and stuff like that. Outside of he was in Braveheart and
Yeah.
also Warhorse and stuff like that too. But like I thought Carrie Fox was fantastic, and I would have loved to see her pop up in more things. But from the jump that Ewan McGregor has the juice
Oh yeah.
here, and it's just like he is so charismatic, and like it makes 100% sense that he would be the one to go on to be in Train Spotting
Mm-hmm.
and then all of these other films that obviously Star Wars turned out to be a humongous game changer for him.
Who would have
And
thought?
who would have thought? And Moulin Rouge, which I
Yes.
know Luke will appreciate bringing that up. Like he is such a charismatic actor and works so well in this film. And in general, this is a very lively, high energy kind of
Mhm.
film that leverages its setting really well, great production design, and three intriguing characters that we could get behind who have to deal with sure it's a lot of the tropes of like what if we found a dead body
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of things, but like it's the energy, it's the characters, and it's the dark biting humor I think that really ties us all together.
Yeah, like like I'm like as I always say, I'm all for like I don't mind your any movie having tropes because like I'm the believer in the theory of any story we could have told, we've already told by now, right? It's about the unique spin on each story and the element within the story. Like, maybe you do something interesting with an audio, maybe you do something interesting with the visuals. And those tiny spins are where I can love the tropiest movie ever made if it gives me enough of like, hey, there's a great performance, there's a great visual flair, there's this great audio, there's a great soundtrack, performances, whatever. So like, and again, this is his feature debut. I This is very strong, very strong.
Very
So yeah,
strong.
like I'm glad I finally watched it.
Well, and I think the last point I'll say before we transition to the next film is if the tropes are one of the first things that you bring up talking about the film,
Hmm.
then what the filmmaker did to explore those building blocks didn't do enough to overcome the fact that you've seen this before.
Correct.
The fact that it took us until the very end to bring up, yeah, this deals in some of those like basic kinds of building block
Hmm.
kind of ideas, it's because everything else was so engaging that you get past that because Danny Boyle did something special with it.
Yes.
So there you go. Now, a film that definitely is not a cookie cutter, because this is a wild ass movie, is
Yes.
A Life Less Ordinary. And this is indeed directed by Danny Boyle. And we have, upon being fired, a desperate guy kidnaps a daughter of his former boss. Two angels are sent to Earth to check if love is possible in this case. And we have Ewan McGregor as our kidnapper. We have Cameron Diaz as the daughter of this wealthy man, played by Dan Hedaya. Speaking of Blood Simple, as we mentioned that, talking about Shallow Grave, because he was also in that. And our two angels are Holly Hunter and Delroy Lindo.
Hmm.
This is something.
Wait,
This is
isn't Dan Hedaya the Gabriel and Cameron Diaz's father is Ian Holm?
correct. Yes, Ian Holm is her father, which has a lot of famous people in
I
it.
was gonna say the
You even got like
cast.
Stanley Tucci and Tony Shalhoub. Like, this is so wild because this is only like a couple of years after Shallow Grave, and
Yep.
Danny Boyle's like profile, obviously Train Spotting, like blew up
Hmm.
his profile. But yes, I stand corrected. But yeah, there's a lot of great character actors in this. We'll get to Ian Holm because I had a lot of fun with him.
Same.
But Luke, what were your general thoughts on A Life Less Ordinary?
So this is my second time. The first time I've seen this was like 2012, and I loved it. And now, so I wondered how it's gonna bear on this like repeat viewing, and I think it played very well. I still kind of love it.
Hmm.
Like I'm a man, and I've always had a sweet spot and weak spot for Cameron Diaz. So, and in this movie, like she is dangerous, she is witty, she's obviously smarter than pretty much anybody else, and I'm like. The introduction to both of these characters to Ewan McGregor, this is like like this cleaner who like doesn't really know what he's gonna do with his life. He wants to be a writer but he doesn't know, and like, and then juxtapose that, to like this, to this like supermodel level Cameron Diaz looking person who she just shoots an apple off of her like servant just to prove
Hmm.
how like precise she is. I'm like, see, this is how you make a movie. This is how you make intro to your movie. You're like, okay, I'm in. I know all that I need to know about these characters, and I've enjoyed myself. But we'll get to it later. What about you, Shane?
I'm definitely not as high on this, but I appreciate how bold and ambitious this kind of film was. Because first off, this is a crazy idea for a movie.
Yes.
Like you have these parallel stories of you have this disgruntled employee who kidnaps his boss's daughter and then of course falls in love with her, and then you have these angels that are trying to like prove that love love is still there. And I don't know how much they fuse together as much for me, these two
Hmm.
storylines. And I don't know how much I fully bought into the romance between Ewan McGregor and Cameron Diaz. I will say this is probably one of my favorite Cameron Diaz performances because I
100%.
feel like nothing, I don't think it's really Cameron Diaz's issue, but I don't think a lot of movies gave Cameron Diaz as much to work with
No,
as this
yeah,
movie
she's always
does.
been typecast as like, you know, hey, she's the sex bomb who can be dangerous, who can be sexy, who can be this and this and this. So like, you know, she can make jokes, she can dance, you know. Oh yeah, we need
Well,
a shot in of her in lingerie because obviously it's Cameron Diaz. So like, you know, they gave her these kind of roles. Yeah.
well, because most young men remember her from The Mask,
Mm-hmm.
where she got her first big break. I am very much a Cameron Diaz's Fiona from Shrek.
Same.
But
Yes.
which is also probably one of her meatiest roles that she got in her career, and it's a voice performance. But like, I just don't feel like Hollywood trusted her enough as a performer to really invest in performances and characters like this for her. And I really appreciated that here. I feel like Ewan McGregor makes a lot more out of his character because it's Ewan McGregor, so he's very
Yeah.
charismatic. I do love the dynamic between Holly Hunter and Delroy Lindo.
Yes.
Like them as these two angels is fantastic, and there's such an unexpected duo because like if you were gonna tell me I need two people to play a pair of angels, I would never have thought in a million years that I would come up with Holly Hunter and Delroy Lindo as a pair of angels to work with each other. And like I've been a big Holly Hunter fan for years and I love her. It I think it was The Five Bloods was the first time like I really knew who Delroy Lindo was.
Mm-hmm.
And then, since then have gone back and seen him in like Crooklyn and other stuff like that. But I love their dynamic. And I am such uh like I love great character actor work and just seeing the likes of Ian Holm, who is hamming it up
Oh
for
yes.
sure, for sure. And he is so much fun. And the likes of Stanley Tucci and Tony Shalhoub and Timothy Oliphant
I
randomly
was
popping up as a hiker in
I was
this,
gonna bring it up if you were not. Yes.
and even like Maury Chaykin, who is I've seen pop up in smaller things, and Dan Hedaya. There's so many good character actor work
Mm-hmm.
that's going on in here. Which did you reference the Coen brothers in your letterbox review?
Yes, because I genuinely believe this. This is the best Coen Brothers movie they've never written or they had nothing to do with. Like it feels so Coen-like, like because it's so quirky. And this was I was gonna bring up, like not necessarily like an argument, but maybe a thought. I genuinely think if this was done by the Coens, same cast, most of the same script, but the Coen brothers instead of Danny Boyle, I think it would be celebrated, and I feel like it would have been noticed much more. And on the same point, I think it came a bit too early because neither Ewan McGregor or Cameron Diaz were at their like peak star level. Because this is 1997, right?
Hmm.
If you made the same movie, same script, same director, same ingredients, same actors, 2002, this would make, I feel like this would actually make some money and this would now be considered like a cult classic. But now, because of like it came out just early enough where neither of these were proper, like they were stars, don't get me wrong, but they were not like top of their game stars. They were just about to, become stars. I feel like, that hurt the movie. Like it was a bit too early for its sake, and I think now it's underseen. Like I feel like it's such a sweet gem of a movie. Like the scene where they phone for a ransom, and
Mhm.
Ewan Gregor keeps fucking it up because he's like too polite.
Yeah,
And then Cameron Diaz shows him how he needs to do it. It just cracks me up.
which which is very interesting because this movie was nominated for MTV Movie Awards.
It's a high. I mean, it's not an Oscar, but hey, that's a prestigious like award if I've ever seen one.
Well, the reason I bring it up is because this had to make some kind of cultural. like that's the thing about like the MTV Movie Awards were like that was a pop cultural thing.
I feel like it's just because there were two hot people at the time. So like, hey, there's a movie starring these two ultra hot people. Yeah,
Except
let's
this
nominate them.
this only made $4 million on a $12
See?
million budget. This bombed. So
Yes.
like the fact that this even got that kind of attention's interesting.
Yep.
Um, but like it got nominated for Best Dance for the two of them.
As they should. Yes.
Yep. Which I think the thing that I really enjoyed the most, the two things I enjoyed the most, one is that dynamic between the two angels
Mm-hmm.
and like their whole shenanigans and stuff like that. But what I appreciated a lot was the whole dynamic of Cameron Diaz slowly taking charge of this kidnapping
Not
to the
even
point
slowly.
like the fact that like she basically had to be like, well, now I have to be the one who kidnapped myself because you don't know what the hell you're doing. And it's just like that's such a fun concept and conceit.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting that you brought this comparison to the Coen brothers because I feel like writing wise and character wise and all those things very specifically like this does give Cohen vibes. It gives Cohen comedy vibes
Mm-hmm.
specifically,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's because they draw a lot upon those old screwball comedies
Yeah.
of like early Hollywood, and like this kind of feels like it could have been a screwball comedy
Mm-hmm.
concept from like earlier in cinema, like 1940s screwball comedy. Obviously, it wouldn't be as brash and have as much attitude that Danny Boyle brings to the table, and I think that's the difference. I
Mm-hmm.
think what makes make this specifically a Danny Boyle film is the energy and the approach to it, and
Yeah.
like how aggressive everything is from like a filmmaking perspective. You look at the production design of like the offices where like the angels work and literally everything is white,
Yes.
like
Yes.
everything, and it's like aggressively white.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything in the real world is like you look at the colors of the outfits that Ewan McGregor and Cameron Diaz wear, it's like it's so aggressively like color, and it's so brash. The energy that this movie has
Mm-hmm.
is infectious, and this makes so much sense that this was like a follow-up in for Danny Boyle after Train Spotting, because that film is just a manic bit of energy throughout, and I feel like that's a big selling point of a lot of Danny Boyle films,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which some of his movies that feel the least like Danny Boyle are the ones that I feel like lack that kind of like frenetic energy to them. Like I enjoy Yesterday
Me
a
too,
decent
for what it
amount.
was.
Yeah, but like you could definitely tell that was like Danny Boyle kind of like pulling back on the reins a bit. But then you watch 28 years later now and you're just like, oh my God, he's back. And just like wild.
Mm-hmm.
And you get that kind of energy. There's a lot of things that I enjoyed about this. I just don't know if everything 100% clicked for me to love
Mm-hmm.
this. And, you know, I'd watch it again. I enjoyed the experience a lot. And as a humongous Coen Brothers fan, I definitely appreciated the similar kind of vibes. And that is interesting that, like, if this was made in 1997 by the Coens as their follow up to Fargo, I think this definitely would have gotten a lot more attention.
100%. And like what I really enjoyed on my second viewing is I've noticed this dynamic between Cameron and Ewan McGregor like instantly. Like she effectively like wants to be kidnapped because like she hands him the gun twice,
Yeah.
right? And then like all of their fights pretty much mimic how it is to be in a relationship, except they don't fight about being in a relationship. They fight about what's the best, how to do kidnapping the best. And it's like, you're just, like, and when Ewan McGregor breaks down, it's like, oh, you did nothing but criticize me, and I'm doing my best, okay? And I'm like, this is such an interesting parallel on like I think that's why you're 100% right with like this is a screwball comedy from like 1940s, where
Mhm.
like, hey, what if the kidnapper wants to be, and what if the kidnappee wants to be kidnapped and they behave like a married couple and they fight about, like a married couple does, except it's about the kidnapping, not the relationship. And I'm just like, yeah, this is funny, and those scenes are hilarious. Like, sure, does it get a bit too convoluted towards the end, and occasionally the angel bit seems a bit off, like not really placed like well. Yeah, I'll concede. But because of Delroy Lindo, because of Holly Hunter, like those two just, that's a duo I never knew I needed. And
Mhm.
they work so well. Like, as you mentioned, Ian Holm is just this beautifully evil rich dad
Yeah.
who's, but who is evil just because, like, he wants his daughter to work finally. So I'm like he's evil because of other things, like he lets go people and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But like in this specific instance, it's like, okay, he's not that evil, but okay, I get it. We need to have
It's
a,
like his
villain.
motivation is like legitimate. It's like I want my
Yes,
daughter to like
yes,
earn
to
a
actually
living.
work for a living for the first time. What it's implied is for the first time.
Rich people problems. No, daddy,
Correct.
I don't want a job.
I'll rather be kidnapped instead. Okay,
Yeah.
and
Which
just yeah.
it's so interesting, even putting this in context with like the next year, The Big Lebowski came out, which is about a rich guy's wife who is quote unquote kidnapped. And then people are convinced she kidnapped herself. But as it turned out, she just none of those things.
Like genuinely, if he told me like Danny Boyle and Cohen's were like doctoring each other's scripts, we're like, hey, I have a script for this movie called Life Less Ordinary. Ethan, Joel, what do you think? Oh yeah, just like let us give you some notes, and then he gives him some notes on Big Lebowski. I wouldn't I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. They feel like Fargo, this movie, Big Lebowski, almost can be a weird trilogy if you think about it.
Well,
Like they
and
are like similar enough.
what's interesting is John Hodge wrote this, who wrote Shallow Grave, Train Spotting, The Beach, and then he too Train Spotting. So like he was Danny Boyle's early writing collaborator,
Hmm.
before Alex Garland
Took over.
swooped in them, and then Danny Boyle's films like really got big in terms of attention and stuff like that. But like it's interesting to see like the kind of stuff that like Hodge wrote in his scripts, and like he has a good sense of dark humor and everything for sure, and does some good work here. I think this is a little too messy for me to fully buy into and love, but
Hmm.
it's such a bold, weird, interesting film that I wish that we got more bold, weird, interesting films. Like there's like I would take more stuff like this than the vast majority of like romantic comedies that we get.
That
So
no, yeah, that would be my last point as well. Like I think that's why I'm a bit softer on these kind of movies, where even if they don't work 100% on like all the levels, like like story writing, storytelling, all those. If you and it goes back to my previous point, if you give me enough of something that's like unique and I kind of vibe with that uniqueness, I don't I'm a forgiving moviegoer. I'm a
mhm,
forgiving person, and I think there's this movie has like this specific vibe about it, where the dance sequence, like just suddenly we go back to almost like 50s 60s, where it's like they have the
yeah,
dance number, and I'm like, I wish more movies were made like that, where the filmmakers were unapologetically like campy at the time, made their time. They didn't want to, they didn't. I feel like now the biggest problem with many movies are they nobody wants to be made fun of. Nobody wants to be, oh, I don't want this scene to become a meme on the internet, right? In the 90s there was no internet, or like there was, but like it wasn't that prevalent, let alone memes.
yeah,
So like nobody worried about that, so they were like, oh yeah, you know what, like I'll camp it up here, I'll ham it up here, and we'll see what happens. And I miss those kind of like swings.
absolutely. And this is certainly a swing. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously it didn't click with audiences at the time, and to be frank, I had never heard of this. So before picking this because I wanted to pick another Danny Boyle film, and it
Mm-hmm.
worked out. I had a fun time with it.
I'm glad.
But that is a wrap here on another episode of the Wasteland Retrospective. But Luke, thank you so much as always for coming on talking movies with me.
Always a blast. Thank you, Shane.
And next episode, Jeff will be back and we will be doing a double dose of late 90s, early 2000s Tom Hanks with Castaway and You've Got Mail. And next month, Luke and I will be doing a double dose of Ray Fiennes led dramas with The Constant Gardener and The English Patient. But thank you all for listening. Make sure to like, comment, and share on this episode. What is your go to Danny Boyle film? Make sure to follow, subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. We have so many great shows here on the SPDM crew. You always get a chance to every 2 weeks listen to Luke talk to somebody else about movies and life in general and the crazy world we live in. Because
Mm-hmm.
what a world! What a world. And so many other great shows with so much interesting content. But if you want to be part of the crew, make sure to reach out to us on our website, whether you want to be a guest on one of our shows or if you want to start your own podcast. If you like our logo, check out HiFlyer Creative for all your digital marketing needs. But most importantly, thank you as always for tuning in and supporting the Wasteland Retrospective here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network.